I'm Deion Imade, and this week on the Old Poke Show, Clint and I get you ready for the Friday Blackout game versus the Wildcats here in Boone Pickens Stadium. To do that, we talk to Tim Everson from the Manhattan Mercury. All that and more on the Old Poke Show. Welcome to the Old Poke Show. This is the show where we talk to Cowboy legends from the past and the present and review the Oklahoma State program going into the future. I'm your host, Deion Imade, alongside, as always, the man himself, Clint Chelf. How's it going, Tim?
It's going well, man. It's always good to, to get a little bye week to just kind of recharge, kind of get away for a second, watch some other teams, do some scouting. So I'm doing well, man. It was a good weekend. Got to kind of step away for a bit, which is nice. How was your weekend?
Man, the weekend was good. I bet you can probably guess how I spent it though. Saturday, free Saturday, not a football
went out
game.
clubbing, went out, yeah.
No, Clint. I didn't go out clubbing. All right. What are you, 90? Clubbing? No, man. I played some golf, man.
Oh man, how'd you play?
Man, I did shoot my best score of the summer.
Okay.
Score of the season. It's still not that great, for the people who
that's okay.
Play on the regular, but your boy's trending in the right direction. Did
you happen to see the memes that were kind of going around? And maybe they happen every year, but they were just more prominent this year about Oklahoma State was versus the bye. We squeaked out a win against the bye. We won like 21-17 against the bye or something.
Like,
that's cold, man. That's not good.
So we won the bye week, huh?
We won the bye week, which is always important.
That's always a good thing. Always a good thing. Well, speaking of the bye week, man, we might as well transition into some football. We had a bye week last week, like we just mentioned, and then this week we face off against a very formidable foe of ours, Kansas State.
Familiar as well.
Very familiar. Yep. So it's going to be an interesting week, but a Friday night game. So we'll talk more about that a little bit later, but I kind of want to bring in our guest real quick. You cool with that, Clint?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we got a special guest for you guys, another individual who's familiar with the opposing team and the competitor. So we'll just go ahead and bring in Tim Everson, the sports editor for the Manhattan Mercury. Tim, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Did your bye week treat you as well as ours did? I don't know if you heard, but we went 1-0 on the bye week, so that was good.
I think I also went 1-0. I spent the weekend in Kansas City, got some barbecue in me. Did one of the haunted houses up there, so it was a
go to the Beyonce concert.
We were there at the same time as the Beyonce concert. I did not have tickets, so I avoided the gigantic horde of people that were over on that part of town. But
only thing worse than that would be a Taylor Swift concert.
I think that I bet you they were both pretty just equally crazy. I mean, I saw people leaving from that, and it was wild. So.
What's the what was the barbecue place you went to?
I hit up a couple different ones. There's one north of downtown called Wolfpack. It's pretty new.
Okay.
Shout out Wolfpack. I got a friend that's the pit master there.
Oh, nice.
So that was dope. And then a place called Char Bar in Westport. Kind of a nicer sit-down place, but delicious, absolutely delicious. So,
well, I'll have to check. I'm actually going to be in Kansas City this weekend, so I might have to let the boys know. We might have to go check those places out.
Check out Wolfpack, especially. Give them a look. It's worth your time.
Nice. Well, let's not keep the people waiting. We brought you here for information, and by God, we're gonna get it. All right. but first and foremost, I kind of want to get your opinion. I mean, you've got expertise in this. Where I kind of want to get your opinion on Oklahoma State and their team as you've looked at it and as their season has progressed, especially with you doing some homework this week on K-State's opponent.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of. As the year started, I mean, it did seem like they kind of came out the gate, a little slow. They were kind of squeaking by to start off. I was shocked at the South Alabama result, as I'm sure a lot of Oklahoma State fans were. And that's when I kind of it started to dawn on me that maybe this was there's more trouble in Stillwater than maybe I had thought. I know that both offense and defense have not been up to the standard that you guys are used to down there. The Iowa State game defensively, I'm sure was especially disappointing considering how mediocre to bad Iowa State has looked offensively against other teams. So it is hard for me looking objectively to kind of, especially with where K-State has excelled, to not think that K-State should be going in fairly confident on Friday. But Friday games are weird. K-State has struggled in Stillwater. Of course, Chris Klieman has never won in Stillwater since he's taken over, and it's not like there's the roster is devoid of talent. It's not like Mike Gundy doesn't know how to coach. So anything can happen there, but at where I'm kind of standing now, it's looking like one of the easier games that K-State has had to play so far this season, but we'll see.
Well, it sounds like you've done quite a bit of good homework because the patented Oklahoma State slow start. The one thing that I didn't hear you mention, and I know before we got on here, I told you I wanted to get your thoughts on it if you had any, was the 3 quarterback system. How is there any? Have you heard anything within the program? Obviously, Alan Bowman played this last game. There's only one game of tape on him. But what was your kind of thought or anybody's thought around the K-State program about a team running 3 quarterbacks?
Right. Obviously not positive, not something not an aspirational thing when you see, 3 healthy quarterbacks in one football game. Not what you want. I know talking to Chris Klieman earlier today, he had his press conference. They're preparing for Alan Bowman. It seems like that's kind of the consensus. I know Coach Gundy mentioned in a radio show that's where they were leaning, even though he was kind of non-committal in his press conference yesterday. Obviously, I think K-State has familiar with him when he was back at Texas Tech. But they got to see Gunnar Gundy last year in that game, and that did not go particularly well for Gunnar Gundy.
I believe that was the game that the meme or the GIF was formed with him kind of like shaking back there, right? Yeah. That was not ideal. We try to forget that game as much as we can.
I would imagine I would also want to do that. It's just from an outsider's perspective, it does not look good. That's about all the answers I have for you. It looks like it's been a rough time.
Well, to climb on to sorry, Clint, were you going to say something?
No, go ahead. I'm good.
Yeah, to climb onto the opposite side of things there, we stay on the whole quarterback subject. Will Howard, he seems like he won the job last year where everybody did not think he was going to be the guy. I mean, had a transfer quarterback come in and he just wins the job over. How has he improved this year compared to last year?
Will's confidence is just, is improving every game. I think that we're still, because of a little bit of injury trouble earlier in the year, we've kind of yet to see him kind of hit the stride that he hit in kind of the last half of last season, where he looked as good as any quarterback in the conference. They're still trying to figure out some wide receiver issues, trying to find some consistency there. The offensive line was missing some pieces to start the year. Those are back. They were back for the Central Florida game, and things looked a lot more like we thought they were going to look offensively once that came together. One thing that Will has kind of struggled with, he does have an interception in all 4 of the games this season, including the season opener versus SEMO. There have been a couple of them where not necessarily his fault. One where he got hit when he threw it. One wide receiver, maybe could have fought for the ball a little bit harder and didn't. But that was one of the things he said today is stuff that he's worked on during the bye week is not forcing it, really trying to take what the defense has given him and kind of working with that. But every game, I think we kind of see something a little new and a little fun. And I'm curious to see, especially with this extra week of rest, if he is able to kind of make that jump to a top half of the Big 12 level quarterback that I think most, at least the K-State fans, know he has the potential of being.
Well, I think everybody learned in the back half of last season that he had that potential. One thing you did mention a little bit was injuries, and obviously the rest off that you just mentioned for the bye week. What is kind of the overall health? I know Wills. I don't know if he's been a little gimpy on an ankle. I know Trayshawn Ward missed this last game. RJ Garcia. So what's kind of the overall health for Kansas State coming out of the bye?
Overall health is incredibly positive. After some early nicks and bruises, they did lose star senior middle linebacker Daniel Green to a season-ending pec tear, which it's not what you want. People didn't think that he was going to come back. He did, and there was a lot of celebration and an excitement around that. And then, to go this early is tough. But they have, luckily for them, linebacker was one of the more deep units on the team, and so they've been able to kind of patch things together. They have a whole bunch of young guys that they have been happy about. Although we did learn that a freshman linebacker, Asa Newsom, who had played quite a bit over the last 3 games, did get hurt during the bye week and probably is going to redshirt. So that's another hit to kind of that really good linebacker depth to start the season. But RJ Garcia practiced over the bye week. He should be good to go. Trayshawn Ward practiced over the bye week. He should be good to go. Like I mentioned, the offensive line was missing senior right tackle Christian Duffy. He was able to come back for Central Florida and play like halftime, and then through the bye week, he got back to what he said was around 100%, and he's back listed as the starter and should be ready to play the majority of the game down in Stillwater. So overall, aside from Daniel Green, it's a fairly positive picture injury-wise for K-State.
You mentioned before how Chris Klieman has never won at Boone Pickens Stadium, and sample size is kind of small with him. Haven't been at K-State for too long, but also it does seem like in recent years K-State has struggled at Boone Pickens Stadium. And with them being a 10.5 point favorite, do you think there's something with K-State and going to Boone Pickens Stadium, or do you think that was just, football doing football things?
I mean, it's certainly a tough environment, as you guys know. You guys do a good job down there with the paddles and everything. You have the students right on top of you. And then, you consistently in the past, they would have last been down there in 2021. That going back to like 2003, it's been fairly, you've had some real good teams down there, and that's made it tough. I know, talking to a lot of the seniors, the guys that have been on the team for the trips and losses in both 2019 and 2021, they want this one. They this is kind of on their bucket list before they leave. This is one of the things that they haven't been able to do. They've won a Big 12 title. They've won bowl games. They've made a top tier bowl game. They've been able to do a whole bunch of stuff, but a win in Stillwater is not something that's happened. And I know that that's something that a lot of guys on this team really want to leave the season with. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to shake off what has been plaguing them at Boone Pickens and kind of find that groove.
Well, one of the most important things, when you go on the road is starting fast. In Kansas State, we talked about has scored on the first possession in all 4 games. And that's something that bodes well when you go on the road. I know offensive coordinator Colin Klein, who we're familiar with, has done a really good job. What do you attribute that to? Just his game planning, his scripting for the first 10 plays, or are they getting good kick returns? What's kind of leaning into that?
Yeah, I mean it's I don't think it's the kick returns thing. I think that the field position has been pretty average. I think that they've just had really good scripts to start off with. The problem really has kind of come on the subsequent drives after that, where they've kind of, they blew through Missouri on the opening drive 3 weeks ago, and then didn't score for like 2 or 3 drives after that. Central Florida was the same thing. They easily waltzed down the field off after they received the kick. And then it kind of took them a little while to get going. So it's the adjustments have been a kind of a struggle to get things going. But yeah, they start off, firing and rolling. So it's been fun to watch, because that's also not necessarily been a thing that K-State's been great at in the past. But I think that that's just going to get tougher as things go on. So.
Speaking of Colin Klein, some of us know him a little more personally than the rest of us over here, man. I spent a couple of years spying that dude in the open field. Goodness gracious, he's big. But speaking of quarterbacks, one of the guys that I kind of wanted to talk about and is kind of rare, but Avery Johnson, the backup quarterback, the freshman that was a very highly talented recruit that everybody, I was really surprised. I don't know how surprised you guys were that he ended up with Kansas State, but will Oklahoma State get a chance to see him on the field, and will he be an impact player in this game?
It's super interesting because we got a pretty heavy dose of him in the season opener versus Southeast Missouri State. Ran for a touchdown, had a big passing play. And by doing that, he jumped the backup, junior Jake Rubley, who was also a 4-star guy coming out of high school. And so that kind of made us all think he did not see the field versus Troy at all. And then he saw the field in a couple of weird situations that did not really amount to anything versus Missouri. And then even though in the fourth quarter, K-State had like a 3-touchdown lead or close to that over versus UCF, no backup quarterback at all, nothing. So at this point, with 8 games to go, it's tough to tell. To start the season, the coaches were very insistent on, we don't care about the red shirt. We want him to be ready to go. We're going to get him action when we can. We're going to, the red shirt is the furthest thing from our minds. But now, especially versus Central Florida, you got to understand, like, we were very unsure that Will was going to be able to play at all. And to have him play the entire game shocked a lot of people, shocked a lot of media members, shocked a lot of fans. And he played well. And of course, everyone's happy for that. Happy that he's better and everything. But it's still kind of a mystery. So he's traveling. It wouldn't surprise me if they try to do something. But I do not know kind of what the strategy is with Avery right now. It is not kind of what we thought going into the season, and it's not what we thought after the first couple games. So we'll have to see.
I've just got 2 questions left before we let you get out of here. So Ben Sinnott looks like he's leading the team in receiving. He's a stud. I've watched him a lot. Big guy, tough to tackle, but he's got great hands as well. If there's a receiver that Oklahoma State fans should look out for that could maybe make an impact, Oklahoma State has had some difficulties in the secondary. Who should Oklahoma State fans be on the lookout for?
Well, the biggest standout so far, aside from Phillip Brooks has been been with K-State for the last 5 or 6 years now. he's very consistent. But as far as Flash goes, Jaden Jackson, who transferred over to K-State from Ole Miss last season, didn't play at all last season, has come on really strong. People thought that a guy like Keegan Johnson, who transferred from Iowa, was going to be that guy that was really going to flash. He has not. He's been struggling with injury. He hasn't done anything. Kleiman said that he's healthy and should be good to go, so they're hoping that he gets it going. RJ Garcia is a guy that has been talked up a lot and has had a little bit of flashes. But I would say the one guy that has shown it consistently kind of through the first 4 games is probably Jaden Jackson. But I would not be surprised if one of those other guys kind of finds their finds their way to go here and then in the game.
On the other side of things, with defense being on the forefront of my mind, this 3-3-5 defense that it seems like everybody's running now in the Big 12. What's your thought? How does K-State's kind of differ from everybody else's?
I know that they love the options that it gives them. They love the fact that they can kind of they can get more athletes on the field. They can be quicker. They can get after guys. As far as like difference between teams, I'm not 100% sure. I know that the secondary especially has really succeeded over the last several years. K-State has had a very strong secondary. And coaches have attributed that to the 3-3-5 and kind of an added intensity that it's kind of brought, and then they've liked it a lot.
My final question before we get out of here, we've talked about what this game means to the Kansas State seniors coming into Boone Pickens and winning, and then obviously the preseason goals for this Kansas State team obviously very, very high. Oklahoma State on the other side of it, it's kind of their backs against the wall for this season, coming up 2-game losing streak. I watched a lot of the Missouri game, and Luther Burden went for 714 and 2 touchdowns. So what is it going to take, if it's possible in your mind, for Oklahoma State to upset Kansas? Is it going to take a Brennan Presley going for 115 and 2 touchdowns? Is that kind of the recipe?
I think so. I think that K-State, that kind of the biggest bugaboo defensively this season has been the big play. Troy was able to have some success with some big passes. Obviously, Missouri was, and then Central Florida was 2 weeks ago. They have a lot of new guys in the secondary. They lost a bunch, almost the entire secondary, except for senior safety Kobe Savage. A lot of guys are still kind of getting up to speed, getting their communication down, getting all the signals from the sidelines down. Coaches hoped that this bye week kind of came at a perfect time to help kind of drill those things in, really get that kind of stuff, the kind of intangible, kind of basic stuff, really locked down. And so that way, as they kind of go forward throughout the season, it wouldn't be as much of a problem. I would say that, big plays will be the kind of the death of this team if they don't find a way to kind of get that slowed down.
Probably ultimately going to have at least 1 or 2 turnovers as well, I would imagine, if that's the case.
Yes. And, like I said, Will Howard has shown that he'll try to beat you. He'll try to sneak it in.
I know that life. It's tempting.
It's tempting.
You want it.
Yeah.
That hole looks a lot bigger than you think.
Yeah.
It's he'll at times, especially when he gets rattled, especially if he gets rattled from like the middle, right down the middle, he'll make a decision that he regrets. I wonder if he will stay aggressive, or if kind of the struggles that he's had the past 4 games, if he'll be a little more tentative. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, Tim, thank you so much for joining us, man. It was a pleasure to hear your insight. And before you go, I mean, tell the people where they can find your stuff and all the information you have.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to Manhattan Mercury. TheMercury.com has all of our stuff. You can follow me on Twitter at I am Tim Everson. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah,
Awesome,
thank
man.
you guys so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Tim. Thanks for joining us. Talking a little football coming out of the bye. So, we appreciate it a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Tim. Well, that was Tim Everson from the Manhattan Mercury. Tim, thank you so much once again. Clint, what'd you think of Tim and all his insight?
Well, Tim was great. We appreciate him and his time. Sounds like he's going to be traveling down to Stillwater, so wish him safe travels and appreciate him coming on. I thought there was some interesting, just the mindset. It seems like especially after last year and then coming into this year, this is a game that Kansas State has circled. Those seniors, they want to win. They seem very confident, and that's I'm not trying to say that they shouldn't be. I'm saying they come in with a very confident team, which is there's something to be said about being confident in this sport. And so it's going to be an interesting game. I think Tim, the one thing I had looked at, watching the Missouri game and then going back and listening to some of their guys talk, watching the UCF game, there are big plays to be had against the secondary. So
and the reason here, so don't mean to cut you off there, but one of the things that Tim didn't mention that is interesting to find out about this 3-3-5 defense and the secondary is they like to play a good amount of man with their 3-3-5 defense. And it's something that Oklahoma State does a little bit, but I mean, it helps in the run game as far as like getting more eyes inside, more bodies inside the box as possible, and moving that linebacker's like initial stance instead of being in the apex between the last lineman and between the wide receiver. He gets to be closer into the box and make a more impact in the run game.
Conflict defender kind of guy.
Yeah. So with them doing that, I think that's why they're so susceptible to a lot of big time plays, because you know how it is, Clint. Once you're in man-to-man defense, if you get even with that defensive back, you're leaving. And so I think when he was mentioning they got some young DBs, they got some other than Savage, they're kind of young at that spot. They're playing man-to-man, giving those guys a chance to be aggressive. And with young players, you're going to see mistakes happen. And so hopefully that's something that the Cowboys can kind of take advantage of and beat and win some one-on-one matchups.
Yeah, guys are going to have to win their matchups. I see them, on the few busts that they've had, a lot like Oklahoma State against Iowa State, young guys that make a bust maybe in zone coverage or something, so they want to run more man, right? I mean, that's just being good or getting beat, you know what I mean? So I think that's a good point. There'll be some opportunities for our guys to win. Like I mentioned, Luther Burden, that guy I was watching that Missouri game, reminded me a lot of Brennan Presley's going to have a big game. We've been saying it for a while. Coach Gundy said it already on Monday. Alan Bowman said it. Got to get him involved in the game plan, and I think you got to get him involved early. So that's really what I'm going to be, looking for as far as getting him in space early to not allow them. Like I said, Kansas State scored on their first possession every game. You don't want to let them get too far out ahead.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Before we get out of here, I kind of wanted to get your opinion on the whole Friday game situation. I mean, this is we talked about this one's interesting, intriguing, but bro, playing on a Friday, like I can't remember. I read something where it was like the first time that there's been like a Friday game in Boone Pickens Stadium since like 2014 or maybe
I don't remember any. Yeah,
2003. I can't remember exactly what year they said, but it's been a while. So what's up with this, man?
Where's the respect for high school sports?
Right.
What happened? Thursday is fine because Thursday night football, the NFL, whatever.
Right.
People are going to stay home to watch that, but have some respect for these kids playing Friday night football. It'll be interesting. It's Friday Night Lights is always fun.
Yeah,
and it's always it's always a good time. College, it's going to be a great game.
ESPN,
ESPN,
big time audience.
The darkest sky in the world. I don't know if you've been seeing that going around in Stillwater, Oklahoma. So excited for that. But yeah,
how do you feel, Clint?
I like Friday night games. I'll be interested to see if I like him for college football. So I know you don't like it, right? Because you got way too much high school sports going on.
I got different obligations, man. Like bro, I stagger my week to be, high school and then go straight to college. So I mean, like this one is putting a real wrench in my plan. But hopefully,
hey, that's show business, right? Though I mean, that's what you do.
But you're right. But I mean, hopefully things work out, and maybe we need this change of pace. I mean, we like the last couple of weeks, we haven't done so well with Saturday games.
Yeah,
so maybe this change of pace will bring something in for us.
I'm getting word that this is the second Friday home game since 1940. The other one was in 1956. So you're pretty close with 2014. One thing I do want to go back to the game a little bit and talk about. I do think, and I'll be interested. That's why I asked this question about the health, especially with Will Howard and that ankle. He's a little gimpy, and he mentioned it a little bit. If you can hit Will Howard, if you can get him off the spot, if you can, especially up the middle, the Colin Clays, the Justin Kirklands running, twists, stunts up the middle, then get pressure coming from the center and the guards and collapsing that pocket. I think you can get him to make some bad decisions. So I wanted to highlight that because that's something that I think this team is going to have to do is generate pressure up the middle. Obviously, maintain the integrity of their rush lanes with the outside guys, but if you can get him, quarterbacks hate pressure up the middle. Because you can't step up. You can't really do anything. If you're throwing the ball, it's hard. You're hitting helmets with your hands. You're throwing the ball high off your back foot. So one thing I did want to highlight before we got out of here was I think that's a point that he made that is something to look for.
Yeah, and I really hope that streak continues with him throwing interceptions in these games, man. It can't end on our defense. Hopefully Will Howard throws one up to us as well, because man, those turnovers are going to be needed desperately in this game.
Yeah, 10-point home dogs. You're going to probably need you're going to need a turnover. You're going to need maybe a couple turnovers, maybe a special team score. So
home doggies. Home doggies.
Yeah. You got anything else? Because I got one thing I want to highlight.
I think I'm good. So go ahead and hit us with the last tidbits and let us get out of here, man.
All right. The last thing, and I can't believe you didn't bring this up after you talked about you played golf this weekend, is the Ryder Cup. I want to give a shout out to our guy, Victor Hovland. Guy was an absolute stud. He was a horse.
Goodness.
Him, Rory, and Rahm for the European team. 3-1-1. 3.5 points scored, second on the team, I believe, behind Rory. For a guy that's Ryder Cup rookie, just absolutely. I watched him all week. I woke up early. That's kind of why I'm tired as well. And he was absolutely awesome. Wyndham and Ricky on the other side played well. Didn't have their best golf. Nobody on the American team did. But I wanted to shout out our guy Victor Hovland for being what I think he will be. He will ascend to be the number one ranked player in the world sooner rather than later, in my own opinion. But he was an absolute, man amongst boys this last weekend. So
yeah,
shout out to Victor.
He just keeps climbing, man. He just keeps getting better and better and better. And then the picture at the end where he's holding up the trophy around all the
wives, yeah,
all the wives, and then he kind of did Ricky Fowler pretty proud. And then that picture, man. Got to shout out the OSU golfers, man. They really do.
Stillwater resident, as he kept saying that. So
yeah. Hey man, if you see him around town, tell him congratulations when he gets back.
Yeah.
Well, you ready to get out of here?
Absolutely.
Well, before we leave, remember, guys, tune in to OSU Max for all your Oklahoma State athletic information. They got so much stuff, so much, great things on the site. Make sure you tune into the film room. Basketball is, starting to ramp things up, and they got an opportunity to sit down in the film room with 9 newcomers. So make sure you check in on that. Baseball and softball had exhibition matches these last weekend, and we got an opportunity to witness some of that. So go back and check that out. And as well, just tune into the Old Poke Show every week, baby. Me and Clint giving you what you need and what you want. I mean, it's just like that, right, Clint?
It's as easy as that. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We are going to continue to have, hopefully, if we're not having Oklahoma State guests on, we'll be having beat writers, reporters for the other teams to give you guys a little insight on the teams coming up, especially, hopefully we get some guys from these newer Big 12 teams that we're not as familiar with, like Kansas State. We're very familiar with them, but, the Houston, Cincinnati's, Central Florida's, BYU's, the new guys. Hopefully we can get something for you guys there. But we appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Yeah, remember, guys, stay loyal and true.
Go Pokes.